I was there. I don't have to listen to it.
When you live in a beach resort, it's easy to forget whether you are playing or working. On each week's show, we settle in with a cocktail and try to figure out if there is a difference. This is Day Drinking on Delmarva.
I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I am Tony Russo, no relation, and we're here at Bethany Blues in Bethany Beach, Delaware. All sorts of stuff to get to today. Lots of really cool stuff. Before we get to one cool thing, I want to talk about what we're drinking. Mm-hmm. And we are drinking Dogfish Head 60-minute IPA.
Yeah.
Because we are exhausted from choices.
Because we had to go with the old reliable.
I don't think anyone who drinks craft beer has ever not sat down and said, oh, I haven't had a Dogfish. I haven't had a 60-minute in a while. Let me have that.
Right.
Like, I think everybody does that. I mean, I do that once every couple weeks.
Has never not done that.
Yeah, that's just like the most common thing.
Yeah.
Like, I've never sat down and said, gee, I wonder if Budweiser got more appealing to me. You know?
Yeah.
But I do like to check in on the 60-minute IPA thing. There's an interesting thing, especially around here, because we're only a couple miles from where this was made.
Right.
And there's this kind of weird hipster attitude, especially, excuse me, folks, sorry. Kind of a weird hipster attitude, especially towards 60-minute. People like, oh, it tastes different, and it tastes different.
Like people are like, oh, this is new Coke?
It's not new Coke, but now that it's big, it tastes different. And every couple of years, people are like, it absolutely tastes different. And the notion that your taste buds are also the way they tasted 20 years ago is just arrogant.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I remember 20 years ago it tasted like this, but time has passed now and it doesn't taste, it tastes way different because my taste buds are exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I don't care. As long as it's good every time I try it,
right,
that's fine. It doesn't have, when people say that, what I think they're getting at is that craft beer for a long time, and lots of craft breweries still do this, have this kind of artisan approach where, like, not every batch comes out the same. You know, like, we are not Budweiser. We can't make every batch the same. But for your mainline beers, I want them to taste it. If you're going to bother to put it in a can, or in a bottle, I would like to know pretty much what I'm getting.
Right.
Like, it doesn't have to be exact. I wouldn't be able to tell whether or not if it was exact, but it should be close.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be surprised. I'm like, oh, like, there are a lot of beers that I'll try that I haven't tried in a long time and be like, I don't remember. I either liked this for the wrong reasons, or it's different.
Yeah.
Or it's in a bad line, which just happens so often. And so that doesn't happen at all with Dogfish. The reason it doesn't happen with 60-minute IPA, one of the, interestingly enough, right along with Samuel Adams Boston Lager, it's one of those beers that gets cycled through so often that when it's on tap, you know it hasn't been there for very long, and it won't be there for very much longer.
Right.
So it's not going to be.
And it's always been that tap.
Yes, and it's always been that tap.
Yeah. How old is 60-minute, you think?
Yeah, it's whatever, 25, 26 years old.
I mean, and I'm sure people would argue other beers, but I feel like this was, for me, and I think for the Mid-Atlantic area, this was, you know, the introduction to the craft beer. And so for me, it's kind of like resetting your palate after drinking a White Claw.
That's true. I mean, again, you have to say that Boston Lager is, there's Boston Lager, and there's, I feel like Bell's was still very popular.
Bell's was old.
But I mean, certainly Boston Lager was my first craft beer that I had.
Right.
But 60-minute was a close second.
Yeah.
That kind of brings me into my one cool thing. So I'm gonna start out with my one cool thing, which also includes a correction or an addendum to last week's show. If you haven't listened to last week's show, it's when do you ask to speak to the manager? And I still say never. My attitude is never. I had, for the first time ever, so we went to this awful restaurant in. I mean, you could tell by the way I started the story. It was an awful restaurant. Went to this awful restaurant in LaVale, Maryland.
Oh man.
Which is not far from Frostburg. And my one cool thing is I dropped my last daughter off at college for the first time.
Yes.
And it was really, really cool just to see her just embrace the college life. You know, we had to bring her extra stuff the next day, and she came out like in her pajamas, like, I'm a college kid. I just walk around in my pajamas on campus. Yeah. So that was very cool.
And you're like, put some clothes on.
I love the face you made, so I guess you've been to LaVale. Because you
not only have I been to LaVale, That's where my father and mother are from.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes.
I wonder if they've eaten at. It was a Texas Roadhouse knockoff.
Okay.
So it's like the Texas Grill or
Yeah.
something. It's like we want to be a chain, but we don't even have those kind of standards.
Right.
The only reason I stopped was because I don't think you should be allowed to have a restaurant license and not serve beer. I think it should be a law.
Oh, yeah.
Like we worked at 2 places. And
was it a Sunday? Do they
no,
still have
it was
Blue
a
Laws?
Thursday afternoon or something.
Really?
Yeah, it was just one was like a disguised cafeteria. Like it didn't look like a cafeteria. And when we walked in, I'm like, this is a cafeteria. And I'm like, well, I'm up for anything. And then my wife, because she's a genius and she's been with me for so long, she's like, do you guys serve beer? Like, no. Why would we serve beer? I'm like,
She's
I
a
don't know.
genius for asking the question, not because she's been with you.
Right. Because I would have sat down and then we would have had to get up and leave.
Yeah.
And it happens occasionally. I don't pay for a meal if I can't have a beer with it.
Right.
Except possibly for breakfast sometimes.
Yeah. Right.
But like if I went into a breakfast restaurant and they're like, hey, we don't have coffee, I'd be like, well, all right, well, enjoy the rest of your life because I'm never coming back here again. So this is the same thing. So we stopped at a couple places. And I'm like, and we passed this one place and it had a Bud Light sign. And now I was getting, I was getting annoyed. I wasn't hungry. I was getting annoyed by all the stopping that we had to do.
Right.
And I'm like,
why can't we just find a...
And I'm like, let's go there. And it's called like the Texas Grill. Meet up the old wazoo or whatever. And my wife's like, there's not going to be anything there for you to eat. I'm like, there'll be something. There'll be fish and chips. There'll be something. I generally, in case I haven't told you guys on the show yet, I eat meat if I know who killed it. I eat game. I don't order meat in restaurants. I don't buy it in stores. And so it's fine. So we went and we sat down. And I said, because it had Bud Light they had like a Bud Light. I'm like, I will drink a Bud Light at this point. Like, I want a beer.
Yeah.
And so we went in and I saw the word blonde. And when I sat down and we asked the waitress, like, what's on tap? She's like, beer. And I'm like, okay, this is how this is going to go. And I'm like, you know what? I saw something that said blonde, because my wife ordered the Samuel Adams summer lager or summer ale or whatever. Not nuts about it. It's too citrusy for me. Mm-hmm. It's too sweet for me. Not my favorite beer. And then there was a Yingling and whatever. And so I'm like, I'll have that blonde. And as it turned out, it was the Guinness Blonde. And now I don't know if Guinness Blonde is that bad or if these were also filthy taps. Like there was no way to tell, because I've never had a Guinness Blonde before. I don't like the idea of Guinness Blonde.
Right.
And so I don't know if the beer is disgusting or the place is disgusting or both. Both of those things.
A little from column A, a little from column B.
Absolutely. And so our discussion last week, as you'll recall, is that when do you my position has always been, it's not my job to run your restaurant. If you want to run a garbage restaurant, that's fine with me. I just won't go there.
Right.
And Todd, who's in the industry, or is closer to the industry, will say, hey, this is going wrong or that is going wrong. You'll try to be helpful.
Right.
I just put everything. There are like 6 restaurants left on the planet that I'll even go into.
But the main question being, when is it acceptable, under what circumstances do you ask to see the manager?
Right. And I didn't get to that point in this meal, but so what happened was I ordered the grilled cheese and the cream of crab soup.
Ooh.
And I
pretty hard to mess up.
I haven't ordered the simplest thing on the menu and had it brought to me right in the last 6 or 8 tries.
Yeah.
Like I probably could have ordered, I don't know, lobster tails and it would have been perfect. Right. They brought out, so the problem was this. The problem is that I'm half a snob, and probably that's the only thing.
Right.
And as I was thinking about like the letter that I would write that I'm not going to, it occurred to me how I sounded. Right. So they bring out, and
you hear your voice in your head.
I just hear how it would sound. Like they couldn't have my experience.
Yeah.
And I hear how I just sound whiny. So you guys tell me how whiny I sound. And so I ordered the grilled cheese, and it's the grilled cheese, and it's on Texas toast. It's very exciting.
Right.
And I didn't think to ask if there was cheese on the sandwich as well. My fault. But they brought it out, and it was a Texas toast. You know Texas toast, right?
Yeah,
it's this
big, thick.
And there was like literally a slice of government cheese on there.
Right.
It was
food stuff.
It was shiny, and it was repulsive.
Yeah.
Like literally repulsive.
Was it melted?
I didn't get that far. She put it down, and I looked up at my wife, and my wife started laughing.
Kelly knows.
Well, because she knows the last couple times, like, I got an egg sandwich delivered to me wrong twice.
Yeah.
And at the second time, I'm like, you know what?
Right.
I'll eat it. I just want to eat at this point.
Just go away.
And so, I'm like, you know what? Tough it out. And so I went to take a bite of the crab soup, and now you have white crab soup, and this is where I sound like an asshole. All right, there's white crab soup in a white bowl on a white plate with an undercooked grilled cheese sandwich, and it was just so unappealing.
Right.
I'm like, I don't want this.
With incandescent light bulbs.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, I didn't go to the kind of restaurant where you expect plating.
Yeah.
But this was
right.
Something that, so anyway, so I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to eat. And she's like, and my wife's like, what are you going to eat? I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to eat.
you had a Bud Light or a Guinness Blonde that's terrible for you.
The first pint in my life that I never finished, with the exception of if White Claw counts, then the second pint. So I picked it up and just not mad at all.
Yeah.
And I brought it, and the lady's like, is there something wrong? And I'm like,
everything.
This is inedible.
Have you seen this?
And then she looks at me and she says, well, what's the matter? And I'm like, it's repulsive. And it bothered me that she looked at it.
Yeah.
And that's why I couldn't talk to the manager.
Right.
Because if the manager didn't look at that and go around and cross grilled cheese off of every menu, like they put it on the menu.
Yeah.
They didn't screw it up. That's what they were shooting for.
Yeah.
They were a 10 out of 10 there.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to improve their restaurant.
Right.
Their restaurant.
The Texas Longhorn.
Yeah, right. Not that it needed improvement. And one of my complaints, one of my reasons that I don't like to go to chain restaurants is very similar. Like, because if you go to a chain restaurant and you don't like it, it's your fault. You went there.
You know what you're getting.
The owners of Applebee's are like, oh, these people don't care what they eat, so we don't have to care what they feed them. What we feed them.
And if we give them dollar margaritas, they'll be too drunk to even know the difference.
Right? So I get that. And so that's why I don't go to chain restaurants. And this looked a little chainy. My wife, again, to her credit, she was like, this is not going to go well.
Yeah.
And so what I figured was, rather than order 3 or 4 different things that I would not eat, I would just eat her French fries and sip at my beer. So and the coleslaw, which was also, like, the coleslaw was bad, but that's an opinion thing. Right. And they might
too mayonnaise-y, not mayonnaise-y enough. Or
lots of people have their own coleslaw thing, so I can't complain about the coleslaw, and I'm not old enough yet to complain about the coleslaw.
Yeah, that does come.
Yeah, and also Kelly and I were the youngest people in the restaurant by 40 years.
Yeah,
but it was also noon on a Thursday.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so they're probably like, oh, we have grilled cheese on the menu for kids, and no kid is ever gonna.
No, it was soup and a sandwich.
Oh, Jesus.
It was the thing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The point is, this is why I don't ever bother asking for the manager, because I can't do anything but sound like I'm whining. You're ordering a $9 sandwich. You can't say that the plate is too white.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing color. There's no green here. You need something to make this pop. Throw a little parsley, something. Cream
Just
soup.
Sprinkle of Old Bay on the crab soup. I mean,
don't serve cream soup in a great big white bowl on a great big white platter. And that's what it was. The food was not good, and then the plating elevated it or delevated it to repulsive.
Elevated.
And that's why I don't ask for the manager.
This week on Restaurant Rescue with Tony Russo.
And I just feel like, and that's what I was trying to think of, how I could tell.
Yeah.
Because Kelly's like, you should write one of those, because sometimes I'll do like really vicious reviews or something, just because they can be funny.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I can't find a way to explain to the powers that be that if you don't know this is awful, nothing I can say is going to help you. You are already, I don't know. Anyway,
it's an interesting area.
It's tough because, and again, we live in an area where the service industry is huge, and you don't want to see things go poorly, but you also, like I said, I've got my own job.
So what's interesting to me about that story is I wonder if the restaurant business has become more craft-like because of, people caring more about it, and like I just feel like there's been more of a movement in general for craft business, and I wonder if this is just because they're kind of an isolated area. This is all the way out at the end of
I was in the
Maryland.
mountains. Yeah, I was in the mountains.
I mean, very close to the Pennsylvania line. This is like Appalachia.
Yeah.
Very close to Appalachia.
People were there was a wedding party next to it. No, there wasn't.
But, I wonder if it's just that, are they 10 years behind? And, and that's as much your experience about going into a couple other places that are, were essentially,
right.
Cafeterias, which kind of lends itself to everybody used to work at the paper mill.
Right.
And at lunchtime, they went across the street and...
It is 100% possible. I have kind of resolved.
You are a huge East Coast elite snob.
It's absolutely. So I've resolved now. I go only to ethnic restaurants when I'm traveling now.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because I don't know. Like, I have friends who grew up in, like, Northern California, and they can't go to Mexican restaurants sometimes. They're like, this is disgusting.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Americanized Mexican restaurants.
I don't know from Mexican food, right?
Yeah,
so it's all fine to me. Like, I wouldn't go to. I don't know. There's a Mexican chain by my house. I don't remember the name of it. Maxwell's, I think. I don't know. But like,
no,
you go to if it no matter how dirty it looks on the outside, no matter how awful it is, you'll be fine, and you won't know. I won't know any better. I don't know from Chinese. I don't know from Mexican. I certainly don't know from.
I feel like the less English they speak, the better the food.
And we could be wrong, yeah, but it could be like some Asian dude could be ranting on his podcast about how this, and they put vegetable oil in the fried. Yeah. I couldn't.
They use corn or they use flour tortillas.
Right.
Stupid Americans.
Right. I'm a corn tortilla guy. I get corn tortilla credit. So that's the only solution. But the other thing that, going a little bit more to what you were talking about, is my real concern. It's a real and a legitimate. It's not even a concern. It's an observation and a sadness.
Sadness.
And the thing is that we are really reaching the point for me, and I think for people who don't want to eat just garbage all the time. Like, you're going to spend $100 on lunch or $20 on lunch.
Right.
I think the $35 lunch out for two is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I drink more beer than everybody else.
Yeah.
But I think you have to go to a better place or an ethnic place.
Yeah.
But if you go to even diners are just becoming a little commoditized now, where
Well, and it's interesting what you said. You said something a couple shows ago that has actually stuck with me about like going to a ball game, and that's what I think what you said is like that's what you're supposed to be paying for food,
right?
And I have this thing, we do a lot of work. This might even get into our topic.
Your one cool thing,
yeah. I'll do so. Put a pin in that real quick. I'll say my one cool thing. I was talking to, and maybe this will be a topic for another show. I was talking to a potential client who has a very interesting story. Alex Mitchell. He has a twin brother. He's a Army retired Marine. I'm sorry, not Army. Retired Marine, and he is growing. He has an open air farm growing cannabis, but for hemp and CBD, not for medical use with any level of THC. So we're talking, and I've known this guy from just around small town stuff. Right. Real interesting guy. Haven't really had more than a conversation with him. And he's like, I got this story, I am an Army veteran, Marines, 80% disability. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm starting this business. Like I'm good at the business part, or I'm good at, creating things, but I've made $1 million, but don't have a dollar to my name. That sort of like creativity and the entrepreneurialism. And he's like, and I want to get the story out there. I think there's a lot to be said. And and my one cool thing is the compliment that I got. So, toot my own horn. But he's like, there's no better storyteller on the Eastern Shore.
That's great.
And I'm like, there are lots of amazing storytellers.
Well, when you talking about why a person does what they do,
yeah,
and how their business is useful without being gross about it.
Yeah.
No, you're up there.
I mean, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, that's a fact.
I appreciate that, and it's I think what struck me most about it is, when I say I'm a storyteller, first of all, I'm coming to grips with calling myself an artist or artistic, and I feel gross. Although I do it because that's the marketing part. When I'm talking to a client and like, we want to tell your story because we believe in storytelling. Like, I feel gross saying that.
Yeah.
And
you should, but you also have to.
but so then to receive it sort of unsolicited back at me was one of those things where, okay,
yeah, it felt nice.
That felt real nice. That was my one cool thing. Still gives me goosebumps.
It should.
So yeah, hopefully we're going to do a good story about that too. So the whole idea.
How much should food cost?
Should food cost? Right. We're working up at Freeman Stage. We've done a lot of work up there, and there has been. Well, the topic of today is phone etiquette.
Right.
At performances. We'll say performances.
Fine.
We're mostly, concerts and, well, pretty much all music performances. But we've been doing a lot of work up at the Freeman Stage, which is a nonprofit that has put on 60 shows this summer, that 40% of the shows that they put on are free. Of even the paid shows, a large percentage, almost half of those shows are free to children under 12. Mm-hmm. This is a great, their mission is to bring the arts to this area. And it just kills me when people are like, $50 to go see Tedeschi Trucks? That seems like a lot. And I'm just like, I want to punch them in the face and be like, do you know what it's good? Like, you're not paying $50 to go see Tedeschi Trucks or paying $9 for a carafe of wine.
Right.
You're helping a kid in Sussex County get exposed to, poetry and the arts and performance art.
I'm sorry to say this. Is that a band that you're talking about?
Oh, Tedeschi Trucks.
Or is it an actual truck show?
No. Good question. Thank you for asking, Tony. Tedeschi Trucks is a band.
Is it a guy?
It is.
Oh, all right.
It is, yeah, some guy named, I don't know, Lionel Tedeschi.
Right.
And that's not his name.
But just for anyone who might not know Tedeschi Trucks.
Thank you. I was getting a little bit ahead of myself.
$50 is a lot to pay for a truck show. I would pay.
I realize how
I would pay $60 to not go to a truck show. Can I just donate the $60 and skip the truck show? Because I would prefer to do that.
I should have used the Jim Gaffigan as a reference. Maybe that's more why Jim Gaffigan, the comedian, mm-hmm. he's coming to the show, and those tickets.
You're like, who would be better to talk about?
It was there was a couple,
Right. But the point is that things cost money.
Things cost money.
And you don't have to go if you don't want to pay.
And we're in a world where with very little research. I mean, it's not like you have to dive into their white papers. With very little looking into, you can see what their business objective is.
But a concert at any place is going to if you're going to go to a concert and you're going to get a chair at that concert, mm-hmm. it's going to cost $50.
Right.
If you want to sit on the lawn, it's going to cost $30.
Right.
And it's going to cost $15 to park.
Well, and I would argue that a lot of these national acts who are coming here and performing and they're performing for their max capacity is, I don't know, somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 people, let's just say.
Right.
It's a small venue. It's like an intimate, there's not a bad seat in the place because you can, You can pay your $50 or $60. You can feel good about what you're doing, and then you can see somebody and stand literally anywhere in the venue, even outside the venue, and hear great things. And if you're inside the venue, and see great things.
Right.
And this brings us to our topic.
Right.
What the hell do you do with your phone when you're at one of these amazing performances?
So we talked about this actually on an early show, maybe it might be the Lost show, because it was a little boring to talk about. But I went to see Iron Maiden.
Yes.
And I was a little surprised. Mm-hmm. No, I was shocked at how many people tried to record long stretches of the concert on their phones.
Right.
Because I had lawn seats.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a blue blur. Like, you could go home, put on an Iron Maiden album, and take a picture of a light bulb, and no one would know the difference. And what bothered me was they were holding it in front of me, so I was watching the concert on their phone.
Right.
Like, they were watching the concert and filming, and I was watching the concert on their phone. You know, it's going to take, I think, a while for people to get used to realizing that they don't look at anything that they film.
Right.
Right. But the other thing is, and I think I know where you're going with this. The other thing is when you have great seats and you're not interested in the show. And and this is what you're.
Yeah, I can only imagine what it means. And our job is to capture the experience of a lot of these type of shows.
Right.
So Natalie had the experience on Saturday night up at the Starbird. They welcomed the Bumpin' Uglies, which is a band out of Annapolis, and they've been making music for a decade now. They're super fun, and they've climbed the ranks, and they're a solid touring band. And they have fans, and they showed up for the show at the Starbird, and then the Starbird faithful were there too, and it was a great vibe, and it's real positive music, and we're there to capture it and take pictures and take video, and Natalie takes a stretch of 8 or 10 pictures, while lead singer Brandon is like essentially toasting the crowd. Mm-hmm. Every single person in this picture is fully engaged, except for one, and it's this girl who's standing right in front of him, not 2 feet away, and she's looking down on her phone, and it wasn't like. And so Natalie made we try to be very positive.
Right.
She has moments, and she posted something like, "This drives me crazy. Don't do this, and don't be on your phone in front of a performer." For long stretches of time.
Right.
Like this wasn't a.
I'm trying to get my shot. Yeah.
Yeah. This wasn't a like I'm going to take one picture, I'm going to check it and put it away, or it wasn't a I'm going to see what time it is, because my kid's got to get picked up late, or something like that. She was not there for the show. Yeah, for 2 minutes she was looking down at the screen in front of her, and it's just infuriating. One. We talk about voting or steering the culture. Mm-hmm. That's what we try to do in our work. Is like we want to show this amazing experience that is relevant and at the same time kind of timeless, right? Because you want to be able to
right.
Like you're not just it's not just a picture of the guy playing. It's the whole experience, and this one person in a perfectly framed, and everybody else is so into it. Just kills the shot.
Right. So what's an opportunity the next time she wants to post it, she can say someone was already booking tickets for the next show.
I was going to be the smart ass when she was ranting and say, well, maybe she's on our website.
Right. Yeah. And that's the only way, because one of the things that I don't want to come across as unsympathetic.
Right.
But
yes.
Like when you're doing news, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like there's always someone and you're like,
sure.
This was a great photo that you're making awful.
Yeah.
I remember when I was at the Star Democrat, I got this great, I didn't take a lot of accident photos. It wasn't really but if there was no one around and there was an accident, they would send me out for photos.
Right.
And I got this great shot and my boss was like, we can't run that. And Mike why not? And she's like, there's blood. We don't run blood.
Oh, wow.
And it was like a speckle of blood on the side. I'm like,
Yeah.
can we Photoshop it? She's like, we don't Photoshop We don't Photoshop pictures and then put them in the newspaper. What's the matter with you? I'm like,
It's a slippery slope, Tony.
I don't want to switch someone's head out. It's just a beautiful shot.
Right.
That blood is ruining.
Just desaturated a little bit.
Black, but it was like once you pointed it out, I couldn't unsee it.
Yeah.
But it's instead of what we want to do is kind of ignore. I don't know how to make the phone thing better for those of us who it bothers. Like, it bothers me a lot.
Yeah.
The phone thing generally bothers me a lot. You know, I'm making an effort in my own life, and that's all I can do. Like, I'm making an effort in my own life to genuinely, like, put the phone away.
Right.
I've actually enabled notifications on my desktop. I don't keep the phone in my room anymore. So if my kids aren't on the phone, that call's not even going to get answered. I don't even know who it is. I can hang up on them from without skipping a beat. And I think treasuring the people who kind of exemplify that is the best we can do. You know?
Right. So holding up the people who...
Right, like me with my damn white plate and white...
Yeah.
Like, no one cares, right? But what I can do is I can go to the Chinese place across the street and say how fantastic, how fantastic... And that's what, like...
kind of kill them with kindness.
No, kill them with ignoring them.
Yeah.
Like... That's the best you can do, I think, because one of the reasons I got out of the newspaper business, there were a couple, but the main reason was I wanted to ignore stuff that wasn't interesting or wasn't news.
Right.
And they're like, well, this senator said this, and I'm like, yeah, but that senator's a moron, and that's not true.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, then you have to write, and I'm like, no, we can just not say anything.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, everyone else is saying anything. I'm like, yeah, but that's not what I want to do.
Right.
I want to tell the truth about things that matter.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's this kind of thing where we have to say, well, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And you're right. And it is wrong.
Yeah.
But maybe to say, like, this is awesome. I feel sorry for that person who can't embrace the awesomeness. Like, that is where the big anti-phone movement can start. Not like living, because we talked about this, like, live your life, don't look at your phone, right? We did an episode on that. And as I said, my wife loves to take pictures on her phone. That she is living her life when she's taking pictures on her phone. But like when someone's, rather than say, hey, you're on your phone and you're not paying attention, you know, celebrate how much fun everyone else is having. Like, you know, isn't it interesting how dull your life must be if there's something on the phone that's more interesting than being like not denigrating them so much as elevating the people next to them, I guess.
Look how much fun everybody in this picture, most everybody in this picture is having. And
it's clearly not about the band, you know.
What was interesting about that too is Natalie got a little pushback from people who were like, oh, well, I like to take pictures, you know, so it like turned into this thing where like, am I wrong because I like to take pictures on my phone and maybe video to show my kids later? I'm like, no, absolutely not. That's not the point. You know, I think that it's like with anything, there's a certain level of balance, and I know that, I don't know, maybe it's because I was a psychology major, and you know, it's always like, oh, I can you know, try to put myself in the headspace of what that person is thinking and why they're doing what they're doing. And
another thing, and we'll probably have to leave this for a different time. And another, I'm almost completely off of Facebook now, completely. I check it for work, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Because there are two things that people want to do, and maybe these could be two different shows. There's certainly in my Bagel Manifesto that I'm working on.
Yeah.
The one thing is they want to avoid blame.
Uh-huh.
And the other one is, we already talked about, they want to avoid responsibility.
Yeah.
And so people generally don't want to say, well, that's bad, because they don't want anybody to say, well, you're doing is bad. And so
Right.
Unfortunately for your wife, you can't make an honest comment. Like, you can, but when you make an honest comment, like, I really wish this person would enjoy the show. Everyone's like, why do you hate me?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
if the picture's not of you, then this conversation's not about you. Like,
To be clear, I hate this person in this moment.
this person ruined my shot because they're the kind of dull person who can stand in front of a stage
Right.
and be on their phone the whole time.
Yeah.
Maybe they got free tickets. I got free tickets. I'll tell you what, I got free tickets to the Bee Gees once.
Yeah.
If I had a phone,
I would have been on it.
I would have spent a little time on it. We went and I called my buddy Keith, the same guy I went to see Iron Maiden with, right? I called him. I'm like, you want to go see the Bee Gees? He's like, no. I'm like, I have free tickets. He's like, all right, I'll be over in 10 minutes. We went. We saw the Bee Gees. They were fine. I knew more songs than I thought I was going to know,
Right.
but certainly not every song they played for 3 hours.
Right.
And so I just sat there and we would make fun of the people. There was
Right.
a girl in front of us who brought a literal candle and lit it and had one of those. This is 1991. And so she had one of those 3/4 baseball shirts on, white back, blue sleeves, white back that just said Bee Gees on it, and she just stood in front of us with a candle and screamed the whole time, like yeah, for 2 hours. I don't know. She was really into the Bee Gees.
Right.
I was not. So I'm like, hey.
See, that would anger me as much as somebody on their phone.
But she's having the most fun.
Yeah,
You can't be mad at someone who goes to a Bee Gees concert and has the most fun out of everyone.
That's true.
Most fun loving the Bee Gees. Like, I just love you, Bee Gees. Like, there's nothing. Like, yeah, it was awful.
Yeah.
But that's my fault for not loving the Bee Gees as much as she does.
Yeah, that's it. Maybe I'm just jaded from all of the shows, and like this is something I'm a little bit aware of is. We do a lot. We cover a lot of music. And it's kind of like, all right, another. Yeah,
and when people get free tickets, they're always going to be a problem in any crowd. Because of it. It's like, well, I thought it, or my boyfriend's bringing me, or my girlfriend's bringing me. Like, let's go see. You'll love these. No, I don't love this music, and now I have to sit here for 2 hours in front of music I don't like, and I'm not being. There's no reason for me to pretend to have a good time. There's no upside, But don't go. Like, my wife, she'll be like, I'm not interested in that. I'm not going. Like, that's, again, just say I don't want to go to that. Because that's a relationship problem. That's what you can say. This person's obviously in a miserable relationship because they got dragged to the show that they didn't want to go to, and rather than tell their significant other, I'm not interested in that show, they went there and pouted for 2 hours. And it's not the phone, it's the pouting. There we go. It took us 20 minutes, but we got to the bottom of it. It's not the phone, it's the pouting.
Don't be a fun hater.
Don't be a fun hater. Right. If you're going to go, like, I went to the Iron Maiden concert, I screamed, I yelled, I sang along. It was great.
Yeah.
And if... Like, I've been to concerts before. Like I said, the Bee Gees, I just, I sat there when there were songs I didn't know, which was a lot of the time. I sat there. I'm out. It's a summer night. I'm out under the stars listening to music.
Right.
There were good seats, too.
Right. You sit there, you wonder, are these the original Bee Gees? Like, how many of these people are still...
You know what's amazing about the Bee Gees? I think there are still 11. This was the one tour. So it really was, like, 1991.
Okay, yeah, so...
The Robin, I think...
Yeah.
Doesn't play anything. He just stands there with his finger in his ear for 2 hours and sings harmony.
And you're like...
There are three Bee Gees. Robin just sings harmony, and the other guys each played 12 instruments. And I'm like, you guys have been in the band for 40 years. Like,
you can pick up a
cymbal, a shaker guy, something.
A shaker guy.
Because when you're not singing, you're just standing there like us, except on the other side. And you're in the middle.
Matching outfit.
Yeah, you're in the middle, and Barry's playing the guitar, and not Barry's playing the bass in one hand and the keyboards on the other, and you're just standing there like, yeah, see these assholes working? I get a third. I get a third of what you played. They're working 5 times harder than me.
Barry, not Barry.
And Robin.
And Robin.
Yeah. The Bee Gees. They're brothers Gibb. All right, we're up against it now, so it's okay because I got nothing anyway. How about you?
I got nothing.
All right, so remember, when you're at the beach...
Happy hours whenever you say it is.
Day Drinking on Delmarva with Todd DeHart and Tony Russo is produced weekly, mostly by dumb luck. You can join them Wednesday afternoons at Bethany Blues in Bethany Beach, Delaware, or find them online at daydrinkingondelmarva.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll check back in with you next week.